We are now at the end of the DC Rebirth original storyline of Green Arrow. I'm going to give you a very short version of it, but you can click down below to get the full Green Arrow playlist and have a better understanding as to how we got here. But Oliver Green is currently assumed dead, and his company has been taken over by an individual working for the Ninth Circle. Think of them as like the Illuminati. They're affecting everything in the world. It is time for him to stop the Ninth Circle with the help of Emmy and Black Canary. Let's go. In our last video, and I know it's been a while, we watched Ollie come to the aid of Roy Harper as Roy defended his adopted home from a militia group hired by Queen Industries. After setting aside their differences, Roy punched Ollie for abandoning him so long ago, and the two worked together to drive out the corrupted sheriff, freeing the Navajo reservation. Now, with the old duo back together, Roy works on trusting Ollie again, offering to help in whatever he needs. Now, in the pouring rain of the Evergreen Cemetery in Seattle, Ollie goes to set a bouquet on his father's grave, remembering back to his first memory of him. He was 3, maybe 4, and he was standing by the living room window while it was storming outside just like this. He was crying because he left his teddy bear outside in the yard, and it was out there getting dirty. His mother wanted to go out and get it, but his father wouldn't let her. His father said that he should cry, he should hurt, because then he couldn't make the same mistake twice. Regret is the best teacher, he would say. But Ollie never understood why. Perhaps it was because his father was full of his own regrets. But they'll never know now, will they? As Ollie sets the flowers down, he notices the petals floating away in the rain and towards the stone statue. Ollie looks around to see the water draining under the statue, and after checking around, he finds a switch. He pulls it, and the stone slabs slide down, revealing a stairway to a deeper level. What Ollie finds is an old dwelling of his father's, a secret place where one could be alone from the rest of the world. To Ollie, it felt both wrong and right to be there, but those feelings didn't stop him from investigating the underground workshop. Of course, there were things that he'd expect. Navy medals, souvenirs, weapons, to name a few, but the one surprising thing was a group of love letters to Shadow. After being down there, it had given Ollie time to reflect on his situation. Now it was time for him to give up on thinking that he understood anyone in his life. John Diggle disappeared after saving Merlin the Dark Archer. His CFO, Cyrus Broderick, turned out to be a part of a hellish cabal. And even his own father, he thought he knew them. But even he had his own secrets. As Ollie looks at the old picture of his father and him, he sees a red light in the picture's reflection. He turns around to see a tall cabinet cracked open and something red inside shining. When he opens up the door, he sees his father's old mask for when he was in the Ninth Circle, the underground organization that is trying to overthrow everything in the world. Meanwhile, back at Queen Industries, lightning strikes as Cyrus whispers, taking the elevator down. Once getting to a floor, he pulls out a small key and he places it into the elevator, pressing another button. The elevator begins to move again as Cyrus sets his briefcase down, taking out his red mask, his Ninth Circle mask, awaiting to set off. As elevator doors slide open, Cyrus walks out telling everyone how, when he was a boy, his parents would take him to church every Sunday. There he would sit quietly reading the book of Revelation, struck by its beauty of destruction, a poetry of punishment, a reckoning that will come one day. On the floor is a 5-pointed star, with Cyrus taking his place at the last empty seat. On the others is the assassin that Ollie ran into before Eddie Fires, the freelance assassin Cheshire, the crime boss Brick, and finally the mayor of Seattle, Nathan Dominy. Once Cyrus is in place, the 5 are risen up on pedestals, and Cyrus says that he has destroyed Oliver Queen, ruined Green Arrow, and now with the help of his 4 horsemen, he shall murder Seattle. In the course of a night, destruction begins to spread throughout Seattle as planes fall out of the sky, buildings collapse, and fires break out across the city. Everyone does their best to help the civilians in any way that they can, and just as Ollie finishes helping the survivors of a plane crash, he gets a call that they have a bigger problem. On the outskirts of the city, Eddie takes his place by the busy highway, taking aim with his rifle at passing cars. He waits until he sees a gas truck driving by, and then he shoots out the tire. The truck spins out of control, flipping over on itself, turning the highway into an inferno. Eddie then takes down the southbound corridor when suddenly an arrow is shot through the barrel of the rifle. Ollie then says that he would like to call him insane, but there's obviously some disgusting intelligence behind all of this. His question is why? Eddie asks, why does everyone get up and go to work in the morning? Because they get paid. So I'm gonna guess what you really want to know is, why is this happening? Eddie jumps up, charging at Ollie with a knife, and as Ollie knocks it out of his hands, Eddie grabs onto Ollie's neck, asking if he's ever heard of a shock event. It's a political movement meant to create chaos, the equivalent of a boot kicking an anthill, causing everyone to run and hide while the wearer of the boot makes his real move and achieves his goal. Ollie takes his bow, wrapping it around Eddie's head, releasing it so that the limb of the bow cracks into Eddie's face. As Eddie falls, Ollie asks, if you're the boot, that would mean that there's more of you, right? Cheshire then says there's 4 of them actually, and Brick yells, the 4 horsemen. Ollie starts to step back, asking if this is the shock event. If destroying Seattle isn't their goal, then what is? And Eddie laughs, stating, how about I introduce my friends? First, there's Cheshire. Like me, she's an assassin, and she has a poisonous personality. She lunges forward, swinging her poison-coated nails, forcing Ollie to use his arm guard to deflect the attack. After a few more swipes, Brick grabs Ollie, and Eddie says that he believes that he's already met Brick. Brick then lifts Ollie up and throws him towards Eddie, and before Ollie can even land, Eddie kicks him square in the stomach. Ollie knows that he can't do this. He's outgunned and outplanned. The only choice that he has now is to retreat and escape. Later, at the Coma News 2 station, Ollie visits Victoria much to see if she has any inside information as to what's going on. She mentions that she's been doing some digging and found out that there's a set of ley lines under the city, the geographic alignments of an ancient energy, if one is to be believing those sorts of things. Based on a map that she looked at earlier, Seattle was built to align with the ley lines intersecting there. They resemble the points of a star, and right in the middle of it is Queen Industries. So it would seem that whatever is happening right now has been coming for a long time. The next morning at the cemetery, Ollie tries to put everything together about what he's supposed to do and his own father being a part of the thing that he's fighting against. As Ollie and Dinah leave the grave, Dinah hugs Ollie, telling him that she's sorry. Ollie tells her that she should be, and just as Dinah says, excuse me, Ollie runs off, stating that she couldn't have been more wrong. After Cyrus framed him for murder and made Seattle think that he was a dead junkie, she said to forget about Queen Industries and forget about Oliver Queen. Ollie throws his father's mask, shouting, because that is the best way to help Seattle. Dinah says that it's because Green Arrow has given so much to the city without a fortune, without a fancy apartment, without a wannabe Batcave, none of that stuff. Green Arrow has done so much good, saving hundreds, maybe even thousands. He's a better man than you've ever been. Ollie turns his back, stating that she wouldn't understand, and Dinah asks him why. Because she didn't have a family? Because she didn't have a blue blood legacy? Well, he can just go straight to hell then. Oliver Queen is dead, and she says that they should keep him buried. Over in the makeshift base in Mount Rainier, Henry explains their current findings to Roy, and then stops when he smells something. Roy asks him, what is it? What does he smell? And Henry tells him, it smells like smoke. Henry runs outside to find the tree their base is on fire, and he's trapped. A short while later at the Cedar Water Treatment Plant, Emmy moves in on the facility with intel that there's another attack about to happen. She gets down to enter the facility and she finds a guard on the ground, dead from having poison scratched into his face. Over in Rainier Forest, Ollie radios to Emmy telling her to be careful, and as for the argument with Dinah, he's totally on the right side of it. Emmy says that they don't really have time for couples therapy, so whatever it is, he may just want to get over it. If he couldn't tell, they need her. But Ollie doesn't respond, and instead he asks for Henry. As he looks around, he sees nothing but ash where their base used to be, and on the ground, Henry's broken glasses. Meanwhile, over at the library, Dinah calls on Victoria for some help, since Ollie and her are currently not talking. What they do find out is that there's a book about the Ninth Circle, one telling of a prophecy. It explains that there will be dehumanization, greed, and oppression, all the things that the Green Arrow fights against. However, the book says that it's all a prelude to the ride of the new City of Light, brought into being by someone called the Queen. Back at the water plant, Emmy sneaks through following the trail of poison when she finds Cheshire has contaminated the city's water supply. Emmy fires an arrow to get Cheshire's attention and asks, why are you doing all of this? You're slowly chipping away at the city. Why would you want to kill everyone? Cheshire attacks, stepping back, telling her that this chemical, once diluted, won't kill everyone, but it will cause brain damage and make their hair fall out and cause their skin to rise into scabs. If you're looking for a villainous monologue, you're asking the wrong girl. I was just hired because it's the fastest paycheck I've ever earned. Before Cheshire could swing her sword, another arrow shoots through the handle of that sword, and Roy tells her that he thought that there was a time that she was worth loving, but she's gone toxic. Cheshire doesn't answer him, popping a small vial, throwing it to the ground, causing a bright green flash. As that light fades, both Emmy and Roy see Cheshire has escaped, and Emmy asks, what was that about? Did you say love? And Roy tells her, just don't ask. Over at Queen Industries, Henry sits in an office with Cyrus telling him that he's sorry about what happened to his glasses. Please try these. Henry puts on the new one, stating that they don't know his prescription. There's no way. But then Henry's vision begins to get into focus. The lens adjusts themselves to Henry's sight, and he says that this is so awesome. Wait, what I meant to say is, let me out of here, Cyrus! Cyrus walks off, telling him that he's not a prisoner. In fact, he's a guest here. Allow him to show him something before he goes through. Henry follows Cyrus to the research and development as Cyrus explains that they are here to work on cutting-edge technologies at Queen Industries. Henry looks around at the machine, stating that it's like a Disneyland for dorks. His brain is drooling. And Cyrus then says that they trust and support their scientists and engineers completely. No expense is spared. It's high time that his talent for things was rewarded. Back in the forest, Ollie begins to feel the rain on his back when he hears the twigs and branches around him snapping. He stands up telling Eddie that there isn't much of him left. They've been cutting him in Seattle down to the bone. Eddie walks up telling him that that's the idea. The four horsemen were gathered to make your life hell. And if you were to listen very carefully, you might just hear the death rattle throughout Seattle. Ollie runs over to Eddie, cracking him with the bow, shouting that he won't allow it. And then he fires an arrow into Eddie's shoulder, pinning him to the tree, and then several more until he's unable to move. Eddie shouts in pain, and Ollie drops his bow, beginning to beat on Eddie repeatedly. But just as Ollie goes in for the last hit, there's an explosion, destroying the Seattle Space Needle. As Ollie returns back to the city, he didn't notice it before, but now he can see all of the signs around him. Everywhere he looks, there are stars leading to one place. Knowing now where he must go, Ollie heads underground into the sewers, and he makes his way into the inner workings of the Ninth Circle Temple underneath Queen Industries. He looks around the stone room and he finds what looks like an altar, with a stone pillar in the middle surrounded by fire. He steps down to take a look at it, and the pillar begins to open up, revealing a skeleton inside, holding both a bow and an arrow. Just then, Ollie hears Cyrus's voice telling him that the bow and arrow are actually very prominent symbols in ancient myths. In the legend of the Four Horsemen, the bow was a symbol of conquest and destruction. The Queen ancestors founded the Ninth Circle's financial empire, and that man there is the one who founded the Queen's legacy. Though he sought it to be the end of the line, the Ninth Circle needs a queen in the center of the star. Ollie looks at Cyrus as he puts his mask on, and Ollie pulls back on an arrow, telling him that there are no words to capture how he feels about him. He lets go, and the arrow hits Cyrus in the forehead. But while Ollie begins taking out the guards, Cyrus shouts, "A queen will be responsible for our ruin or renewal." Cyrus jumps into the place of the skeleton, pulling a lever that causes the stone pillars around him to close in. As they do, Cyrus calls out that if he won't assume the center of the star, there must be another queen. Ollie thinks about it for a moment, and he realizes that he's referring to Emmy, and he reaches back into his quiver but discovers no arrow. Ollie quickly jumps onto one of the guards, grabbing the arrow from their back, and he fires it not into Cyrus, but above him. The arrow hits the brazier containing lava and causes it to spill down onto Cyrus. Cyrus screams that it's burning, but as Ollie walks away, he yells, "Green Arrow can't save Seattle now." A short while later, Ollie climbs out of the sewers, taking what Cyrus said to heart. Green Arrow can't save Seattle. So he takes off his costume and his mask, and he throws them away. He begins to walk past the fight Roy, Emmy, and Dinah just had. And Emmy shouts, "Oh yeah, another supervillain felled by the Red Arrow." And Roy tells her, "You can't use that name." As Dinah sees Ollie walking and runs over, she asks what he's doing. He tells her that this city is run by people who wear masks and hide their true intentions. His family has been complacent in that, and so has he. Cyrus was right when he said that Green Arrow couldn't save the city, so he's going to do it another way. He holds up to Nathan, who's holding a press release about their new city, when Ollie pushes him aside, taking the mic. He tells everyone that despite what they may think, he is innocent of any crimes leveled against him. He made a mistake, and he's been hiding it from everyone, even himself, but not anymore. He doesn't belong in the shadows. He knows who he is. His name is Oliver Queen, and he's going to take back control of his company. But rather than listen to what Ollie has to say, the Seattle police arrest him, telling him that he is under arrest for murder. Good luck running Queen Industries from behind bars. And there you have it. Nothing ever seems to work out for Oliver Queen, does it? Anyway, what did you guys think of the entire DC Rebirth launch storyline of him getting to this point? Now it's time for him to learn how to be Oliver Queen again and Green Arrow and make the two of them work together, and that's the story we're going to be telling you next. Hope you guys enjoyed everything we've done with Green Arrow. I know it doesn't get a lot of views here, but there are fans for Green Arrow. I am one of those fans. Don't forget, you can check out more stuff right here at Comicstorian on the right, more stuff over here on the left, and you can subscribe right over here. Are you guys happy? I finally just said generally there's videos here, okay? Now I can't mix them up. There's just something in these corners. I don't know what it is.